Not get political.
I don't like gore at all.
Not make it political, yeah.
It may be an inconvenient truth that you don't like gore, but I'm enjoying coffee today in my It's a Frap mug.
Oh, look at that. The classic, which kind of is not great. I mean, I love the joke and I'm a fan of the pun, but when I made it, I forgot that fraps are cold by their design. They're not
hot.
Cold coffee. Cannot do that. Can't do it.
Not a nice coffee fan.
Gross. Do 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 do.
Yeah, we're screwed.
Ding 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 ding.
Wait a minute, is this gonna get flagged?
Yeah. Our performances are that good.
Yeah.
Sounds like the real thing.
You owe us money for your horrible, horrible rendition of our favorite song.
I will say though, that Toto Africa is like most people's favorite song.
I think it's well loved by a lot of people. Yes,
I like it. It's not my favorite song.
I don't think
But
that's
like
true,
what?
Sarah.
No, Tom. Shh.
Okay, all right.
What is your favorite song, Roger?
Well, it depends because it depends on the genre. Like I like certain.
I have a hard
wouldn't
time
put one
picking
over-
a favorite, like a single favorite.
I
Like in
have
the 80s. In
I
the
have one.
80s.
It's Africa by Toto. You may have heard of it.
I
Well,
mean,
the 80s, I
it's
was-
Stop kissing up.
easily the best song ever.
I was super into the Smiths and Depeche Mode in the 80s, so like all my favorite songs are like
Oh, I like them too, though.
Well,
Like,
sure, but like, is that your favorite song? No, it's Toto by Africa. Or Africa by Toto.
I think
Actually,
my favorite song might be "Ooh Child" by the Five Stair Steps.
Well, that one's good.
I actually like Human Nature. Like
Thank
if I had to put something on constant replay, Human Nature would be it one.
Ooh, child.
Things are gonna get easier.
You know why you like that, Tom? Because it's been revived in the Guardians of the Galaxy. It makes you think of it now when you watch that.
The Garlics of the Galaxy.
The Garlics of the Galaxy, keeping the vampires of the
I
galaxy.
was into that song before it was cool, though.
Oh, I know.
Right? Yeah.
He was alive
Oh,
when
I
it
never
was
heard of it.
recorded.
That is a good song. And we'll give you that.
So the oldest songs in my revolving playlist. We should start the show actually. Ooh Child, Ain't No Woman, The Four Tops, Livin' Life, Kathy McCarty, and One by One by Billy Bragg and Wilco.
You are so old school.
I mean,
Strike It Rich, Depeche Mode, and the Smiths were not emo.
Okay, but now we have that settled. Sarah, would you like to do the pre-roll?
I would.
Okay, here we go. 3, 2.
Daily Tech News Show is powered by you. To find out more, head to dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News for Wednesday, April 11th, 2018. From DTNS headquarters in Los Angeles, I'm Tom Merritt.
And from Studio Feline, I'm Sarah Lane.
Holding it down here in Salt Lake City in 70-degree weather. I'm Scott Johnson.
Ooh, 70 degrees in April. That's toasty.
Very nice.
Rolling the crackling bones for us this week, Roger Chang, our producer.
Am I crackling now?
No, you're not. You
Great.
win. Yeah.
Depeche Mode and the Smiths are not emo.
Okay.
They for sure are.
No,
We
they're not. It's a longer
are-
discussion for later after the show.
Going to talk technology news here. We are saving the Facebook stuff till the end because I don't know that there's really anything super crazy. There's a couple things to talk about, but let's start with a few tech things you should know.
Spotify announced its premium members can now add Hulu as a bundle, which raises the price from $9.99 a month to $12.99 a month. Also, sources tell Bloomberg, Spotify is working on a new version of its free music service for mobile. The updated version supposedly can access playlists more quickly and gives more control over songs people hear. Spotify has a press event scheduled for April 24th.
The U.S. FDA has approved an AI-powered device that can be used by non-specialists to detect diabetic retinopathy in adults with diabetes, the most common cause of vision loss. The IDX-DR software analyzes images of your eye taken with a Topcon NW400 camera, which can be used in pretty much any doctor's office.
Well, eyes are good. We should take care of them. A jury in the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Texas awarded Vernet X Holding Corp $502.6 million U.S. from Apple for violations of 4 patents pertaining to secure communications in FaceTime, VPN, and demand and iMessage, or VPN on demand and iMessage. However, the patents at issue have been declared invalid in cases that are currently before the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit in Washington. When those trials end, the jury awards may be just invalidated.
The Verge notes that email sent to G Suite administrators says Google is planning a redesign of the Gmail web interface in the coming weeks. Members of its early access program can get it pretty soon. The new design will include smart reply, email snoozing, and offline support. Things that have been available in some of the apps like Inbox from Google, now coming to the web. Let's talk a little bit more about a strange piece of malware.
This is very odd. Malware Hunter team reported PUBG ransomware is making the rounds. If you haven't seen this yet, this is what it works like. Like most ransomware, if you get infected, it encrypts your files. That's a huge bummer. But unlike most ransomware, it doesn't want your money or even your Bitcoins. After it has encrypted your files, it shows a pop-up asking you to play PUBG. That's PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds for those uninitiated. It's a first-person shooter game. For 1 hour to decrypt them. You have to play PUBG for 1 hour to decrypt them. Now, if you don't feel like playing PUBG for an hour, it also gives you the key to restore your files immediately. In 2017, Malware Hunter team found Resinware, which required you to play TH12 and score 0.2 billion points in order to recover your files. It's an odd thing. And a lot of people are playing PUBG anyway, so maybe this makes no difference to anybody.
I was going to say, is this an anti-Fortnite sort of situation where someone's like, let's get people playing PUBG again by encrypting all of their files and forcing them
for
to.
1
Except not
hour.
forcing them. Yeah.
For an hour. Which honestly is like, in PUBG, that's probably 2 rounds of the game. It's really not that much work to do that for an hour. And it's a lot of fun. So I don't see where the downside is, other than I don't like the idea that anybody has ransomwared my files. I mean, that's...
Well, yeah, that would be the downside, right?
Right, yeah.
The upside is...
what's not to like?
It's very odd, though. It feels like the most trolly ransomware we've had in a long time, where it's not about the money. It's not about the Bitcoins. It's not about zombieing up your computer, although who knows? It's about making you play a video game, and I've never...
Apparently, it says you have to play it for an hour, but you only have to play for like 3 seconds before it starts decrypting the files. So it's not even truthful in what it's telling you have to do. And it gives you the key. You don't have to play PUBG. It gives you the key right on the pop-up. It's just unnecessary. But it seems to be somebody who's really a fan of PUBG, I guess.
Here's what I think they're actually doing. I think this
friend is behind the...
If they're doing this so that they're just testing to see who will fall for this, maybe they're working on something bigger, more nasty. I don't know.
Okay, maybe.
Uber is partnering with Getaround to let car owners rent their vehicles in a feature called Uber Rent, starting in San Francisco this month. Uber is also partnering with Masabi to offer the ability to purchase public transportation tickets in 30 locations worldwide, including LA, New York, London, and Boston. Uber also announced the expansion of Uber Bike into Washington, D.C., and plans to share data with government and civic agencies there.
Now, this is a big change, this last thing you just said, which is Uber cooperating with government. That's something we've seen Lyft do, but under Travis Kalanick, it was something Uber did the opposite of quite often. Khosrow Shahi, the new CEO of Uber, seems to be not only looking at Uber more as a transportation solution in general, but also willing to like play nice with localities, which I think is a smarter maneuver for him.
I also think that if you've got a car sitting around, this is kind of cool, you know? Like a lot of people I know are using ride sharing and these kinds of things more often, mostly Lyft around here. People really like Lyft. But the idea of you having something in the garage that's sort of just collecting dust, but you're saving gas by not using it, it's there for emergencies or whatever. The idea that you could rent that thing out and actually get some value out of that or some money out of that is a really interesting turn. I would have not seen this coming.
I actually tried to rent my car on Getaround recently because I work from home and I don't really drive. Days go by where I don't
you mean
drive my
rent
car.
out your car?
Rent out my car.
Yeah.
And Get Around was like, your area is not, in our area yet. And I was like, that's cool.
Yeah, because this is not, this has been going on for several years now. There have been several companies besides Get Around that have been doing exactly this, Scott. This isn't new. What's new is Uber putting their Uber muscle behind it.
Yeah, I like the flexing of the Uber muscle. But I didn't know this was a thing until I saw this article today. I didn't know I could ever have done this. Now, if you say, Scott, are you going to go do it tomorrow? Like, now that you know, will you do it? I don't know. There's also something kind of weird about this. Like, I don't know why. I may be getting old or something, but the idea of somebody having access to my console in the middle, and there's like, I don't know, they're gonna put something weird in the DVD or the CD player. They're gonna rifle through my glove box.
Yeah, the Bluetooth is gonna be all messed up when you get back in the car.
Or my channels are gonna be all messed up. They're gonna change all my radio channels, my preset.
We know many of you have worked for rental car companies before. Send us your stories of why you would or would not rent your own car out. Yeah. All right. The United States FTC sent warning letters to 6 companies who market and sell automobiles, cellular devices, and video gaming systems. Those are the FTC's words, by the way. The letters addressed concerns about the companies telling consumers that they must use specified parts or service providers to keep their warranties intact. Here's a quote from the letter. Unless warrantors, that's the people making the devices, unless warrantors provide the parts or service for free or receive a waiver from the FTC, such statements generally are prohibited by the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act of 1975. In other words, that warning sticker on your device that says you'll break the warranty if you remove it and get inside your device is not enforceable, according to the FTC. Companies that have been contacted have 30 days to update their websites and comply with the law.
Whoa. All right. So does this apply to mattresses and those tags?
No, the tags thing is a whole different thing. That was for the shipper. Like, they're not allowed to take the tag off until you can take it off once you get your mattress. That's always been misunderstood.
All right, fair enough. But all right, so somebody gets a lot of electronics. I have consoles. I have the Switch over here. It's got a little thing on it that says if I go inside of this Switch, I'm voiding the warranty that Nintendo would otherwise offer me. Can I take this as now the new law, the standard, not the new law, but the standard as to which I should interpret these things, and I'm okay to crack that thing open and do what I want?
Yeah, if you're in the U.S.
All right. What can I open first?
Well, don't forget, like, if you break something, that will still void your warranty. There are other ways to void your warranty, but what the FTC is saying is you can't just put a sticker on something and tell people you have to fix this through us or lose your warranty. If a competent person opens up a machine and replaces something and doesn't break anything, that shouldn't void the warranty. And the FTC is saying that's true for video game systems and cellular devices, which it's always been something, I think, of $15 or more of value, but people debated whether consumer electronic devices fell under the Magnuson Act or not, the Magnuson-Moss Act or not. The FTC is clarifying. They're saying, yeah, these things fall under the Magnuson-Moss Act. We're interpreting it that way today. So you, Sony, Nintendo, Apple, you can't force people to come to you for parts and service. They're not, and this is not to be confused with the law that's being proposed that would force companies to provide parts at an affordable cost, which is something that's done for appliances. This just says you can't force people to avoid their warranty by doing competent repairs themselves.
Makes sense. Sarah, what are you going to crack open and take into a third-party repair center?
0 things.
Well, and I think this is something that a lot more people yell about than will use, right? I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but a lot of people have been clamoring for this and making a big deal about it, making their cause celeb, building their name on it. And now that it's a little more clarified, I guess they could start clamoring for even more, like, and parts should be made available more equally, which is another problem. But if you take it down to there's a shop over here in my neighborhood that repairs game consoles and phones and stuff. And one time I went to sell an Xbox and he's like, sticker's been removed. I can't resell it.
Really?
Because it's out of warranty. And And now he would feel more comfortable buying something like that because the warranty isn't necessarily violated.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, it does feel like I wouldn't call this a loosening of the rules, but a better understanding of these rules is always a good thing. And again, it only applies to us here in the U.S., but I like it when there's clarification for what I'm able to do or not do. And Lord knows there's not a lot of that these days, so I welcome it.
Facebook confirmed that approximately 1,500 users gave Professor Alexandra Kogan's personality test app permission to access their messages inbox. Kogan later improperly shared data he collected in the app with Cambridge Analytica. Facebook stopped allowing users to give permission to access messages in 2015.
I like the way you phrased that there. Because most of the phrasing is Facebook gave away messages to Cambridge Analytica, 1,500 people. And yes, we've gone through this a million times. Facebook certainly did things that didn't stop this. And there's some questions about, how hard they really tried to stop it. But it was Kogan who gave the data away. And it was people who agreed to share their messages. I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, people, but I don't think sharing your messages content was default. I think you had to go in and actively say, yeah, I'll share my messages with apps. That's fine, right? I think you had to agree to that. It may have been a default checkbox when you installed the app. I don't know. But 1,500 people implies that it wasn't default, or I think it would be a lot more. So these are people who made an active decision like, yeah, I'm gonna let this thing access my messages.
Yep. Of all the Facebook stuff that's been going around the last couple of days, these 2 sessions or anything, honestly, and I've been listening to the Daily Tech News Show, I feel like this is maybe the one thing that even jumps out at me as significant or interesting. Like, it's been a whole lot of blep, blep, blep. And I know you guys have talked about that, and we don't have to talk about it that much more, but I'm not getting a lot of substantive stuff that I was hoping to get out of it. Like maybe a better view of how they see our data versus how we might see our data. It all seems to have just come down to, well, we've been running this way for a long time and nobody was really paying attention, including users who just sort of willy-nilly accept people or apps that say,
yeah, sure.
Data. It's just,
well, and also, this was a story that we talked about yesterday, the idea of the data breach bounty program. It's like, Facebook is like, we're going to give you money if you, bring something to our attention that we're not, aware of. Where does this fall?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, this falls no different than any other Cambridge Analytica thing. All this is saying, oh, another thing that was shared with Kogan that Kogan then shared with Analytica were these messages. So if this program had been going on in 2015 and someone had discovered this, this doesn't change that. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg spent his second day of testimony in front of the U.S. House Wednesday. Zuckerberg has been questioned on Facebook's handling of user data, its effect on U.S. elections, its advertising business model, monopolistic traits. The new stuff since we last talked about this yesterday, Zuckerberg told the House committee his own data was included in the data sold to malicious third parties. Pretty much meant Cambridge Analytica. Zuckerberg also admitted Facebook collects data on non-users as a security measure, according to him, to prevent malicious actors from repeatedly accessing Facebook to harvest public information. This is a practice often called shadow profiles that could let Facebook also make accurate friend suggestions to new users as well, although Zuckerberg didn't say that part in testimony. It is the first public comment on the practice by Facebook, so to my mind, this is the only significant thing to come out of today's testimony was Zuckerberg on the record to the House saying, yes, we do this thing that Gizmodo's been reporting about for 2 years, and it's the first time anyone connected with Facebook officially has said that.
Shadow profiles. That's nice and dark, isn't it? I like that.
Well, he didn't. He actually very clearly was like, I don't know what shadow profiles means when the House representative used that word, because, yeah, he doesn't like the sound of that. But also, companies track non-users all the time. So this is just what Facebook does with that information. The fact that he didn't cop to the fact that, like, hey, we also use it when new users sign up is kind of shady to me.
Yeah. Well, they're done after today, right? Just 2 days, or is there more to this?
That's it. That's it for now.
Right.
We'll see if,
as far as we know.
Yeah, see if he gets called back. Hey, folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, subscribe to Daily Tech Headlines. It's available as an Amazon Echo Flash Briefing, Google Home, on the Anchor app, or at dailytechheadlines.com. So, Sarah, we got a couple of stories today about APIs getting cut off.
We do. Okay. So, we'll start at the beginning. API changes will break something that Tweetbot and Twitterific. I happen to be a user of Tweetbot, so this actually is very significant to me. Twitterific and Tweetbot alerts and streaming. Twitter is not yet sharing the new solution, though. What will they do ahead of the June deadline? We do not know.
Well, it all started with this announcement that Steam Spy, which is a service I've used before, it's basically a third-party website that gets revenue from ads and things like that, but their job is to skim data available in Valve's Steam library settings for various users. That way they can sort of compare who has what games, how much time have they spent in those games. I could very easily look up and say, all right, Tom Merritt has spent so many hours in Civilization 5 or whatever. That's been a thing you could do for quite a while. Valve's changing their API, much like you mentioned the Twitter API is changing. And that got me to thinking about what that means for somebody like Steam Spy. Steam Spy is going to shut down. They've said, well, they've broken what we do. Like literally our entire model was based on us pulling specific data from the API. When they stop giving us that data, we can't do our job. Therefore, goodbye, Steam Spy. Same thing could, I'm not saying it will, but it could happen depending on what happens with Twitter and what what lifeline they might put out there. But Tweetbot, Twitterific, these other kinds of apps that use Twitter on mobile, they may be in a world of hurt. Somebody asked me earlier today, would this affect TweetDeck? And I said, well, no, because Twitter owns TweetDeck now. They don't actively update it in the way that they do Twitter Prime, but it's still there, and one would assume it will continue to do what it does unless suddenly they announce that they're not going to use it anymore. But it brings us back to that same point. When somebody changes your settings, when somebody changes their API and you rely on that API to do whatever it is you're doing, is that something that we should be watchful of, angry about, concerned about? Or is this just a big hoop-de-doo about nothing? Like if you tie your entire wagon to somebody else's API and everything you do is dependent on it, knowing that they have full control over it, there's nothing unlawful about somebody changing their API. It's just how much data
pulling from an API and building your business on that is like, okay, great. But if you don't have a partnership, they can do whatever they want to do.
Well,
and why are you frustrated later? Like, listen, I use Tweetbot. I'm very happy with Tweetbot. That's my Twitter client. I don't see ads. There's all sorts of things that people talk about Twitter that I'm like, meh, I use Tweetbot, so I don't get any of that. But Twitter does not own Tweetbot the way that they own
TweetDeck.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, at any point, I think you should be ready for it to not work out anymore.
But then why build on the API at all? I mean, the point of an API is like, hey, we want you all to build on the platform, right? Come on in, use our API, make some stuff. And I think what people get mad about is they're not mad like, well, yeah, it's Twitter's API. They can do what they want. But hold on. We were using that API because you told us to, and we built value for your company. So sure, you have the right to turn it off, but we also have the right to be really angry with you for that and not trust you and such in the future. Now, Twitter has delayed the deprecation of the old API. It was originally going to go off June 19th. They'll give 90 days notice of a new deprecation date after the new account activity API becomes available. So it's probably not going to be as bad as it sounds. First of all, it's not going to disappear June 19th. Second of all, there will be a replacement before they deprecate it. It sounds like this just was mishandled by Twitter, but it may be more costly. One of the things that Tweetbot was pointing out was they don't know what the cost is of this new account activity API that is replacing the old API. And there is a cost associated with an enterprise level. And Twitter says, we'll make sure that everybody knows what that is ahead of time as well. So Twitter kind of scrambling to get ahead of this when they probably should have been ready for it earlier. Steam, on the other hand, I don't know, Scott, was Steam Spy using an API, or was it just kind of taking advantage of something that Steam maybe didn't intend them to use that way?
They were tied into the API.
Okay.
Steam would argue, or Valve would argue, that maybe they gave away too much. This is them pulling back a little bit. And even Twitter could argue that. The big concern or the big freak out about Twitter is that we might be, those who are used to Tweetbot and other apps that give us chronological post listings, when you posted it, in the order you posted it, instead of this new weird world of, algorithmically displayed postings the way Instagram went and the way Facebook goes. They would prefer to stay with Tweetbot for those reasons. And this is going to mess that up. At least that's the talk right now, until a solution is provided by Twitter as to the contrary. So their apps kind of become no longer the reason people think they're cool, which is they retained the chronological order while the main app didn't. So there's questions there, but this is a long history thing. I feel like Twitter came out of the gate going, yes, everybody, let's go get into the car. We're all together on this. API this, API that. I want as many services and apps as possible, and let's just go do this together. And then they pulled back, and then they pulled back, and then you started seeing more that whole thing where you had to have a token, and if there were too many tokens for a third party, they couldn't make an app for Twitter. So people dropped like flies. There's only a couple left, really. 2-3 handfuls of alternative Twitter apps. So it just feels like a long line of them slowly saying, never mind, get out of the car. We're tightening up the car. We don't want you guys in the car. To continue my bad metaphor.
Although I think there is that history of that with Twitter. I think in this case, it was more like, oh crap, we forgot that the car's still running. We'll delay things. We promise. We don't want to have that fight again. So maybe they're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com and in our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/dailytechnewsshow. And since we're talking about Twitter, we do have a Twitter handle too. It's Daily Tech News. Shh. Doesn't mean be quiet. It means there's a character limit on user IDs. Let's check the mailbag, Sarah.
This one comes from Yaniv. He says, I was listening to, this was yesterday's show. You were talking with Patrick about Google transcription services. I do video production in Spanish here in Los Angeles. Sometimes we have to transcribe interviews in Spanish. I upload them to YouTube, and then I download the transcription in Spanish. Have to say, very impressed with the results. Punctuation is non-existent, but the transcript itself is excellent and very few mistakes. It's not a translation. It's a transcription of the video. I have to say, I tell my clients all the time, I have special software to do the transcript. So thank you to YouTube for being my special software.
Well, apparently it's going to get better now. So Yaniv can appear even cooler to his clients. And then Drew wrote in and said, on Tuesday's episode, during the discussion around Sweden's move to a cashless society, Patrick made the statement that cash is still a medium for the disenfranchised, as he put it. I work for a large U.S.-based retail service provider who employs tens of thousands of lower-income, high-turnover employees whose population set typically overlaps greatly with the unbanked or underbanked populace. These are people who go to cash checking places to cash their payroll check. Many years ago, we moved to direct deposit only for payroll services, but because many of our employees do not have access to a checking account, we continued an exception process where those folks were still mailed paper checks biweekly. Because of the relatively low number of those, the cost to the company has been astronomical, on the order of $20 a check. And not having bank access, those employees still must cash those checks at a business that charges them a significant fee in order to convert them to cash. So we are now transitioning to a pay card system and deprecating paper checks entirely. Employees without access to direct deposit banking will now be issued an electronic debit card through a third party. The balance of their pay will be automatically loaded on the card every payday. Fees are low for the employees, much better than debit gift cards, which can be purchased at retail and loaded with cash at the retailer, and significantly lower than cash checking places, and they can withdraw cash from any ATM if necessary. It's not a perfect solution, and I have had several concerns along the way. However, it is an example of the opposite of Patrick's point, where the disenfranchised are moving to a more cashless society as a result. Very interesting perspective, Drew. Thank you for that.
And your listeners, they always have these experiences and things. It's amazing.
Yeah. No, that's really good. It's really good stuff. Yeah. And a great example of how, we make assumptions like, oh, well, if you don't have a bank account, obviously cashless isn't going to work for you. And it's still true in many cases, but here's a case where it actually is more of a benefit to go cashless and a way to go cashless without a bank account.
Thank you to Yaniv. Thank you to Drew. And thank you to Scott Johnson for being part of the show today. Scott, what has been going on in your world and where can folks keep up with your work?
Well, my API is still wide open, folks. So if you tap into me, by gum, there's no restrictions. I'm perfectly chronological as well. Anyway, there's all sorts of cool stuff going on. I have a Kickstarter happening any minute, hopefully this week. I'm just sort of waiting on some final numbers for playing cards. You're like, what? Yes, I'm making my own playing card deck. My own kings, queens,
so
jokers, all that stuff. I was fascinated with that stuff as a kid, and I just need to finally make my own card deck. So that sounds interesting to you. Maybe custom poker chips, that kind of stuff, or maybe an unlocked deck where Tom Merritt is a king or a jack or a joker.
Or the 4 of clubs.
Or the 4 of clubs.
No. Ace of spades. Oh,
Tom was
like the Ace of Spades.
The 4 of clubs in high school. He was famous for being that guy. But if you're interested in any of that or anything else I have going on over in my part of the world, check it out at frogpants.com or follow me on Twitter at Scott Johnson.
Excellent.
Now, folks, we always try to get one more patron than last month. When last I mentioned this, we were 10 fewer than last month. Now we're 11 fewer than last month, even though some of you have pledged. So some folks have had some financial difficulties and they fall off. So if you've been dithering about like, I know I can afford $1 a month, I just need to go there. Sit down right now, go to patreon.com/DTNS, pledge $1. And you probably will never miss it. And you'll be supporting the show and helping everybody else enjoy us. Also, you can peruse our fine selection of DTNS gear, mugs and sweaters, sweatshirts, onesies. It's all there at dailytechnewsshow.com/store.
Nipre or not. That was a joke from yesterday's show.
Yeah.
Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. If you would like to get a hold of us, please do so. We love your feedback. We are also live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 2030 UTC. And you can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live.
Justin Robert Young's with us tomorrow. We'll talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well done.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Great show.
Good show.
Are they garbly still?
Nope.
No, now you're fine. What in the heck is going on in Glendale?
Don't know.
Yeah, geez, Roger.
Nothing's changed. Nothing's.
Glendale.
There's got to be something, though.
Well, yeah.
Like something in the water.
Well, maybe not the water, but
maybe.
something in the internet connection.
In the air.
Internet
tonight.
connection's fine.
Chemtrail.
But like,
Coming in the air tonight.
but why are you crunching? There's something in the air tonight.
I think it's Phil Collins is in your computer.
Maybe it's just Google.
Yeah, no, it's a codec thing. I'm almost convinced codec mismatch of some sort, but I don't know why.
Yeah,
I think it's
because
something Google did a week ago that is causing you frustrations.
Yeah, I haven't changed anything on my setup.
I know, isn't that weird? Well, the only reason I say that is because I was like, it wasn't long ago that we were like, what's wrong with Sarah's connection?
Yeah, right.
Well,
It's never the connection. It's almost never the connection because connection problems are so intermittent unless you just have a really bad connection. It's almost always the drivers.
Plus, voice and video is so efficient now. Like it's the packets are minimal.
Yeah.
The traffic's prioritized. It's usually something else. I mean, it was for me when I was having issues a couple of weeks ago. turned out to be, well, that's when I found out I could get gigabit, and now everything's better. But
Video
But
codecs
what-
are so
what was
complex,
it?
though.
it was my router, or not my router. I had a switch in between the router and the network, and it was farting out like a mother. And I still don't know why it was doing it, but replacing it with another switch totally fixed it. So I was happy to just let that mystery be a mystery.
You know, we are flirting with disaster by talking about it while Roger's codec is working.
Hello, is it Garbly?
Oh,
No,
it's
you're
so
not.
bad right now.
No,
No, stop it, Scott. He's fine.
Oh my gosh.
No.
I've never heard such
Sounds
garbage.
good.
He'll give him a complex.
Never sounded better.
Application programming infuriating.
Oh, that's not bad.
Weren't that a lot? There weren't a lot of titles this episode. Scott's API is wide open.
How about my API is AFK?
API is wide open.
I got a snicker out of Sarah. I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah. Yeah, that sort of. Yeah,
It's
good.
not really a full belly laugh. Okay, move along.
Yeah.
There's also you can't just put a sticker on it, and ways to void your warranty.
If you like it, then you just put a sticker on it.
Oh my gosh, I was thinking that same thing, Tom.
I like application programming infuriating, but Roger, it's your duty.
We'll do
to
that.
pick.
That's my first pick.
All right.
I like that as long as people understand that we're making an API joke.
I believe it's the right crowd for that.
Probably.
If there ever was one, this is it.
If there was ever a crowd, this is one. See that song? It'll get into your soul.
Toto Request Live, where we only take requests for Toto songs.
Even a song like Total Eclipse of the Heart, I just call Toto Eclipse of the Heart.
Well,
Bonnie Tyler.
So a friend of mine was like, I was talking about Africa being the best song ever because that's what you do. And she was like, oh, that's so funny. Yeah, Toto's doing like a reunion tour. Yeah, like the, or at least in, certain markets, whatever, certainly in LA. And I was like, well, okay. So Africa and Rosanna are both great songs, but like
99.
Okay, 99. That's 3.
How about that?
Do you know a fourth? Like what the reunion tour? Like what else we got?
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot to get me in a crowd full of weirdo potheads and everything. Anyway.
Takes all the money in the world. Can't get me in a crowd.
Yeah, I don't like concerts just for the sake of them.
Well, I'm smaller than everybody, so I can't see anything, and I also don't like people.
Here's one. Okay, I had to look it up to be fair, but here's one that we all know, but I think everybody forgets is Toto. Hold the line.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a good
Hold
one.
the line.
But like, you're not going to the concert to like hear that.
To hear Hold the Line.
Right? You're like, oh, I forgot you sang this.
You're gonna stand in line to hear Hold the Line.
They'll probably sing Human Nature too.
Well,
They could, right?
that part of it is
fair.
pretty cool.
Maybe they'll play that Michael Jackson thing that Roger informed us about.
You can only know about it if you're a Patreon subscriber because it was in the pre-show.
Well, now you can know about it if you're a YouTube viewer.
I just can't believe that Tom was like, oh, that's not my favorite song. Like, that's insane. Like, what else would it be? That is your favorite song. You just
It's
don't know.
not even on my playlist.
Oh, there's a really good cover by Reliant K. I would recommend, by the way.
Reliant K. I'm always skeptical of bands that name themselves after a Chrysler product.
Well, you sound like the last Chrysler I drove right now. Your engine.
A minivan.
You're crusty. You're all crusty. That's weird. Are you just unplugging your USB every time and it goes away?
No, but he doesn't realize that it happens.
Yeah, he doesn't hear it in his monitor, right?
Mm-mm.
I don't know, man. Hold
Get my Garbly now.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you are. Crunchy, crunch, crunch. Granola.
What should we call it?
Super hot, Roger. Maybe we need Roger should do ASMR whispering or whatever that is, but do it in a rusty voice like that. See, somebody out there likes that. I don't know who, but maybe he'll be the hot sensation on Twitch.
When life gives you crackles, make crackly ASMRs.
Give them snap and pop.
You know that old saying.
Yeah.
No.
That old adage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that old chestnut.
No idea what's happened.
You're fine now.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening. It sounds like a buffer issue. It's like it gets to a point and then the buffer overflows.
Could be.
What about that spyware for your camera? Is that still running?
No, it was a spyware for my keystrokes. That's still running. Keystroke logger.
Oh, W Scottus 1 says voice meter will crackle if you're using that.
Well, see, that's the thing. It wasn't for the longest time, and then it started doing it, and then.
Well, but remember, yesterday you did some things, and we're like, let's see if it happens tomorrow. So tomorrow, don't start voice meter. When we do the show, do it without voice meter on. Yeah, I know that means you won't be able to play Christopher Cross in the pre-show. I understand that's a sacrifice that you have to make.
Big one.
And it's
the bigger issue is when you're out. This is what I rely on to play.
Well, but let's take it one step at a time. Let's find out if the crackle comes back tomorrow, then you know it's not voice meter. Let's eliminate that.
Some people go to war. Some people give all their money to charity. Roger will sacrifice Christopher Cross tomorrow morning. Not him himself. You're not going to sacrifice.
Oh, you know what? Let me.
What do you think Christopher Cross is doing right now?
Like this second, he is drinking water.
You know what? Oh, Sarah, I saw it the other day. Somebody took a picture of him in the late 70s, 80s, and then a picture of him today, and they said,
Christopher Cross?
And it says, Christopher Cross is the only man ever to live who looks like both, in one part of his life, and then later in his life, looks like both members of Tenacious D.
No.
You have to see this.
Oh, my God.
I'm going to find it.
Christopher Cross was weird because he used to wear a football jersey when he used to play most of his songs, and it was very jarring.
How do you guys know all this stuff about Christopher Cross?
Because I remember watching him on Solid Gold.
Oh, I found it.
Solid Gold.
Yeah,
Solid Gold.
Thing got like memed all over the place, so I'm going to put it in the daily thing, and you can see it.
You can just screen share it on the Hangout.
Oh, I could do that.
Hold on. Yeah.
Do you see that?
Oh.
No, I don't see it.
How do I screen share on here?
You click the little green. You go to the left and you click the little green button with the arrow.
Okay, hold on.
Just Christopher Cross was I need a minute.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna put this.
That's not Christopher Cross.
No, it's not.
There
it is. So let me blow it up a little.
So
there it is.
Whoa.
Christopher Cross, the only man to look like both.
Okay, you're sure those are both pictures of Christopher Cross?
Yes, I verified.
Because that really looks like the two members of Tenacious D.
No, it just looks like his hair. It's his hairlines.
Do a regular Google search of Christopher Cross, you'll find all these photos and you'll be like, oh my gosh, that's
all right.
Like, okay, so couple things. First of all, how was Christopher Cross like a pop star? No one knows. Number two, how did Christopher Cross look like that? Also a pop star.
Yeah, no, it's
no one
because
knows.
He started in the 70s. That's when you didn't need to look attractive.
Well, but you still don't need to look attractive now. Like, it's not about being attractive. It's about being.
Video killed the radio star. You couldn't be just a singer-songwriter.
No. For me, the only stunning part of that photo is that it really looks like the two members of Tenacious D.
Yeah.
Like, it looks like a young picture of Jack Black and a current picture of the other guy who's
a lot.
Kyle.
Well, and and Christopher Cross, like, he had that high voice.
You know what he is? He's that one the mental hospital patient that Homer runs into that says he's Michael Jackson. Remember, he helps Bart write that song for Lisa.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a Simpsons thing.
That's a sweet episode. But it's also, by the way, that was actual Michael Jackson, uncredited in that role. He did that voice. Not like the Simpsons
Christopher
in the news
Cross.
right now or anything.
Somebody call Christopher Cross. I want to know what he's doing right now.
Christopher Cross on the phone.
He
Get
still
him on the
tours.
horn.
He still tours.
Hello, Mr. Cross. What are you
Love his
doing right
music.
now?
He's sailing, he'll say.
I used to when I was younger, I took gymnastics, and I was in a gymnastics class, and my mother, who's watching the show right now because she always watches, she'll laugh. Christopher Cross, Ride Like the Wind was our warm-up song every time.
Really?
Yeah, every time. And she had like, it was like a, she put the record on the, turntable, and, we'd listen to it. And like, sometimes like somebody would tumble and like it would skip, and she'd be like, stop it. You're ruining Christopher Cross. And yeah, Ride Like the Wind.
I forgot that was even another song he did. So that's where
With
Christopher
Michael
Cross is-
McDonald.
Mm-hmm.
Such a long
Yeah.
way to go. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I used
to
to-
this day, every time I hear that song, I'm like, gymnastics. I need to tumble.
Well, if you need to know, Christopher Cross is still touring, and his last U.S.
And
date
he's opening
is
for Toto.
Stop
Monday,
it. You're
April
lying.
16th, and then he goes to Osaka, Japan, and then Tokyo, and
Let's
then back
follow
to the
him
U.S. in May.
Guys, we got to go to Osaka.
Hello, Osaka.
Oh wait, he's also playing Denmark, Switzerland, France, the Netherlands, Germany.
Best okonomiyaki I ever had was in Osaka.
Hey,
Hold on,
Germany has like,
Me too.
like 8
Me
dates.
But hold on, what does he sing? If it's just the 3 songs we know, what's he
He
doing?
has a lot of music. He has a new album,
Ride
Take
Like
Me
the
As I
Wind,
Am.
Sailing, whatever the third one is, and that's it.
His new one is Tenacious D. Here I am.
His Take Me
Tenacious
As I
D.
Am.
Who am I?
It's a unique offering from Christopher Cross, a hybrid of sorts. The songs are instrumentals with choruses to create the lyrical landscape. This is not quite a guitar album, but leaves a listener with no question about his expertise on the subject.
Oh, okay.
Play guitar.
Yeah.
Thought he knew how to sail.
He has the songs are Hyla, Haila, Take Me As Away, Take Me As I Am. Wait a minute, isn't that a Peter Cetera song? And Roberta, Down to the Wire,
It
Baby
is a
It's
Peter
On You.
Cetera song. Yeah.
Old
Okay,
Days,
okay.
River of Tears.
Christopher Cross, Peter Cetera. Let's not get, very different. Very different.
Yes.
And I have a lot of problems with Peter Cetera.
Also, they're both very different than Logic, the rapper.
I would say so. Yes, they are.
Just for contrast.
Can't get those two mixed up. Nope.
That's
No.
my favorite thing I've ever heard.
Don't ever
Peter
confuse them.
Cetera. What was the Peter Cetera song from Karate Kid?
I'll Fight for Your Honor.
Oh,
Karate
it's
Kid.
such a bad song. Yeah.
Oh, it's great. His entire voice
No,
was the
it's a
soundtrack
really
for
bad
half of the
song.
80s.
I'll be the hero.
You're dreaming of.
He also still tours.
I ruined Chicago.
What do you call? Are you kidding? He cranked out probably some of the highest selling albums.
Yeah, but
for
he
the band.
what he did to Chicago is what Starship did to themselves. He took them from this like kind of bluesy, cool 70s vibe to like pop, dance music, 80s, slow dance.
Michael McDonald did the same thing to Doobie Brothers.
Yeah, they all did it then. That was a thing you did. And
It was just the trend. Yeah.
You stay relevant.
Jefferson Airplane is the most egregious, in my opinion. I hate that. They are that. We built this city on rock and roll is one of the worst songs ever made.
You mean one of the best?
Oh my lord!
Uh-oh.
Now we can't be friends.
Let's hold on before we get knee deep in the hoopla here.
I am going to end the streams. Thank you for listening to our musical discourse. Tomorrow, we'll have Justin Roberts.